everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Katie, otherwise known as the Vintage Academic. I am a junior transfer student at UC Berkeley studying anthropology with a focus in archaeology, and I make fun vlogs and informational videos about community college, the transfer process, life as a transfer student, and sometimes some vintage clothing to mix things up a bit. If that all sounds interesting to you and you would like to stay tuned for more informational videos and college vlogs, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and let's get into today's video. The spring/winter quarter, semester, term, whatever system your university uses has either already started or will start soon. So I thought now would be a good time to talk about preparing for the last term of the academic year. Now, if you are a seasoned college veteran like myself, starting a new semester seems pretty straightforward. You should clean up your area, set up your note-taking system, clean up your files, set up your calendar, get a head start on your readings. And while that is all good practice, I think that the spring/winter term is a little bit different than the fall term. Also, I'm just going to start using semester from here on out because I go to Berkeley where we use the semester system, so yeah, that's what I'm doing. Like I said, you should probably already be doing all of those things where you're setting yourself up for success, but with summer just around the corner, now is also a really good time to start thinking about your summer activities and your plans, whether that's going to be a job or an internship or research. Now is the time to start planning for those. So I have a list of 5 things that I like to do to prepare for the spring semester, starting with some basic practices and ending with prepping for your summer. So be sure to stick around to the end of the video to hear all 5 tips. Lastly, before we get started, I should also clarify that this video is more geared towards those of us who are doing college remotely from home, given the fact that almost a year later we are still in a pandemic. But with that being said, let us get started. Tip number 1, we're going to talk about focus. If you're anything like me, you've probably had a hard time staying focused during school lately. By now, I'm sure we all know that online school is way more of a challenge to maintaining our focus, not only in lecture, but also just with our schoolwork and the virtual classroom in general. I, for one, have had such a hard time focusing that the beginning of this semester has actually been a little bit rocky for me. So here are the things that I've been trying to do to minimize this issue as much as possible. The first thing is space. Having a space for your work is important. Now, I understand that that's also easier said than done, and not everybody has the privilege of having their own dedicated space, but just carving out some kind of area that you can designate to work can signal to your brain that it's time to shift into work mode when you're in that area. Knowing that that space is for work and work only can make it easier to get that work done. I have my desk, but if you don't have the space for a desk, sitting at your kitchen table or having a specifically designated chair, or even working somewhere outside of the home if you have access to that in a safe manner, can help signal to your brain that we're sitting down to do work, we're gonna focus. The next sub-point under focusing is distractions. And this is both in the physical and the emotional sense. So obviously it's really hard to focus if you have a bunch of distractions that are keeping you from focusing on your work. When it comes to physical distractions, this is things like noise, your family members wanting your attention, the animals yelling, TV shows, loud neighbors, etc. With physical distractions, you can utilize certain strategies like wearing a pair of noise-canceling headphones, maybe putting a do not disturb sign on your door when you are actively in lecture, whatever it is you have to do to minimize those distractions so that your attention isn't being taken away from the task at hand. On the flip side of that is the emotional aspect of distraction. I think it goes without saying that almost nobody is 100% okay right now, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be taking care of our mental health. And taking care of our mental health allows your brain the capacity to breathe and take in other information, not just all of the terrible things that are happening in the world right now. For example, I have decided to go back to therapy lately. Therapy gives me the space to process certain traumas and stressors in my life that are otherwise distracting in my day-to-day life. Having that, again, designated space where that is the time and the place where I deal with those things almost frees up my brain during the week when I'm not in therapy session to think about other things and process the complex information and the materials that are being given to me in school. All of that is just to say that prioritizing your mental health, whatever that looks like for you, is important in all aspects of your life, and especially if you're a student. The last subpoint I have underneath focus is rituals. Approaching your need to focus by utilizing rituals can be a helpful practice. in, again, getting your head into the right space. For example, I always listen to a specific playlist. I know where not to work. I know to avoid the areas of my house where I won't be productive, so I always try to sit at my desk. I like to make a cup of tea. I wear a specific pair of headphones. Just creating these connections and associations with other things that help signal to your brain that we're sitting down to work and to focus. I also have another tip for maintaining focus, and this one is just a little bonus tip for staying focused, and this one is especially true for when you're in lecture. I have found that it's been very difficult to sit still for an hour and a half listening to my professor talk, even if I'm trying to take notes, so I have actually invested in a little fidget ring. So it spins, and you can also click it. And this has actually helped me sitting still a lot, because instead of shifting around or popping onto my phone or writing a script for a YouTube video, I can play with this and listen to my lecture a little bit more effectively. Even if it means that I'm not taking notes, I usually go back and listen to my lectures to capture all the notes that I missed. This helps me pay attention to what the professor is saying by getting out some of that physical, anxious movement. So that's just my special pro tip of the day. And if you're interested in picking up one of these rings, I'll leave a link in the description below. Okay, the next step is to create a system for planning and accountability. Whether you're a digital planner or you prefer physical planning, finding and utilizing a system for both planning and holding yourself accountable to those plans will be paramount in helping you keep on track this semester. For planning, I like to use a combination of Google Calendar for keeping track of the times that things happen, like my class schedule, any events that I want to go to, as well as transfer consultations for accepted consulting. And by the way, if you want to schedule a transfer consultation with me, just check out the link in the description. And I use all of that alongside Notion, where I have a whole system for keeping myself on track in terms of assignments, big projects, YouTube, social media, accepted consulting, all that good stuff. Now, when it comes to accountability, for the majority of my education, I have relied on the need to meet deadlines and get grades to hold me accountable to actually doing my work. However, the Anthropology department at Berkeley is not so much of a big fan as the traditional grading system here in America, so I have had to find new forms of accountability to keep myself from missing deadlines. A lot of it comes from my own personal want to do well in school and get good enough grades that I can get into a graduate school program, but I also utilize things like attend the accountability workshops with accepted consulting, and I also have study groups with various friends from different classes in order to mimic that group study environment. Tip number 3 for having a good spring semester is to stay connected with your friends and cohort. Just because we're doing school online doesn't mean you should be spending all of your time alone. I highly encourage you to spend time reaching out to friends and other students in your major, maybe even joining a student organization, or again finding a study group for a class. So that way you can utilize an effective study environment and also start making connections and forming friendships. Another reason why this is really important, at least in my opinion, because discussion is a vital aspect of synthesizing your own understanding of your school materials. Talking to your fellow classmates is just as important for your social life as it is for breaking down the litany of complex materials that your professors are giving you on a daily basis. Trust me when I say it is way harder to work through a dense academic text by yourself than it is with a group of people. Tip number 4, start preparing for your summer activities. If you are interested in finding some kind of job, internship, research position for over the summer, you should probably be hurrying up and filling out your applications now. I know for me, at Cal, a lot of the programs that are offered over the summer, those application deadlines have already passed, or the application will be closing sometime in the next month. So if you are planning on pursuing some kind of activity like this over the summer, I would suggest doing your research now and getting a head start on those applications. Especially doing it at the beginning of your spring term and getting it out of the way, rather than doing it when your workload starts piling up and you're getting closer to deadlines. I would also suggest to prep your resume or your academic CV or whatever kinds of materials you think will be needed for an application and have them on hand and ready to submit whenever an opportunity comes your way. And last but not least, number 5, remember to schedule rest. This last tip is arguably the most important one. Just because we are all working from home does not mean that you need to be productive and working during all waking hours of the day. Rest is just as important to your productivity and your ability to process complex information as any other aspect of your life. Rest can improve your mental health. It gives your brain the time to sit and process, to form new connections. it prevents burnout. Rest just does a lot of really good things for you. I know that in this society where we value productivity above all else, it can feel really difficult and strange to carve out time for yourself to actually stop and rest and take care of yourself, but I do advise you to at least attempt it. Go into your Google Calendar or your Notion or your physical planner and actually schedule out a block of time, whether it's a morning or an afternoon, where you don't do anything. Don't do any schoolwork, don't do any work if you can afford to. Spend some time vegging out, reading a good book, watching TV, playing video games, indulging in a hobby that you otherwise don't have time for. I promise that it will actually do you some good. So, that was all that I had for you guys today. Those are 5 of the things that I try to do to have an effective spring semester. I hope that you found them useful. I hope that you actually try some of these, especially the last one. I want everybody to remember to please take some time to rest and take care of yourself. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for future UC Berkeley and vintage related content, especially because there's some really big announcement coming soon that I really can't wait to share with everybody. Leave me any comments, questions, or concerns below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!